Hey guys, gals, and Legionnaires. Rycon here, and welcome to Zealand After Dark. This is for Chapter 3, The Calm Before the Storm. Thank you all for making it. And as we can see, Nick is just hanging out over on the side here. We're going to do our introductions, make sure that everyone knows who everyone is. First up, we have Nick. So Nick, why don't you go ahead and say hello for us?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Alright, and next up we have Jake. Oh, no, we don't. We don't have Jake. Next up, we got Scott then.
Hey guys, how's it going?
And we have Jake. We have Jake as well. So, hey, Jake. Hey, he's waving down the bottom there. We can see him. And we have Skulk Tate. We have our GM, ZM extraordinaire.
Hey guys.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for making it after what was a interesting chapter, to say the least. We had a rather dramatic end to it. The storm definitely crashed down upon us, that plane being the storm, I believe, and it brought with them a large number of dead that came right up towards where we were staying. We were in a pretty bad situation where we were surrounded almost on all sides, and we were trying to be as quiet as possible. However, yeah, we managed to stay a little bit quiet. But the main crux, the main thing that kind of undid us in the end was Mary. Mary was she was definitely the main issue that we dealt with this entire episode. It was the first time that we'd actually had an encounter with someone that had been infected, bitten, scratched, and a lot of us had as well, so that obviously put a lot of doubt into our mind about our own health going forwards, but we handled Mary in a pretty poor way, in retrospect, but obviously we are trying our best to roleplay this as much as possible, and not be meta, because obviously out of character we know certain things are going to happen to Mary, but we don't know those things in game. We don't know how it worked, but now we do. We have that knowledge. We've armed ourselves with that knowledge, and thankfully we were able to survive that encounter. So that means that going forward, we are going to know what to do. And I agree with CJ Truthwall, hashtag fuck Mary. Agreed, definitely. I think we're all in agreement with with that statement.
A nice lady.
Well, I'm sure she was a nice lady at some point, but yeah, she lied.
I didn't like her the moment that I met her.
Yeah. I mean, she lied to us about her bite. Obviously, she was hoping that she was going to get better. She seemed to be getting better. She seemed fine. It didn't seem to be affecting her that much until it did. But then, even after that, she seemed like she was doing okay, and she seemed convinced that she was going to be all right. So, yeah. It could have gone better for us, for sure. I feel like the mistakes that we made were myself and Jake, we managed to get an agreement with her that come midnight we would be able to restrain her again, and neither of us actually remembered that, and I kind of think that plays into the idea of just how stressed we are. We're super stressed out, we're tired, and I feel like maybe there was a part of us that was looking forward to getting to sleep. That's my reasoning behind forgetting that, and I'm assuming yours is probably kind of similar as well to that, right, Jake?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and so with that meant that she was unrestrained in there, but then I feel like our second failing was, and I understand the reasons that we didn't do that, was not barricading the door or not restraining the door in some kind of way or fashion. So Nick and Scott, maybe you can explain to me why you guys decided to do that.
It's just we didn't have a full 360 view. We wanted to see out the other side of the house, and the only way to do that was to take the barricade down, or take the lock down, and go into the adjacent room.
Yeah, because that cord was tied from one door to another.
The lifeline, and we let it go.
Yeah.
Well, for me at the time, it was just at that very moment, I started off thinking, but then just the kind of the explanation he had at the time was enough for me to go, oh, okay, fine. And like me just internally thinking, oh, well, she thinks it's tied up. So, and she hasn't tried to come to the door and open it at all, ever. She's always just standing at the door asking to be let out. So she might just assume the door's closed anyway.
Yeah. And see, I think my reasoning behind having the door locked wasn't for her in her normal state, I was afraid that if she turned, she would just be able to just walk on straight through. Like that's the reason why I was wanting to have it restrained. Not so much because I didn't think she was going to stay in there. So I never really saw it as a deterrent. But yeah. Hey, at the end of the day, we all made it out of there alive. Not
Well,
easily,
barely.
mind you. Barely. We scraped through that. We absolutely scraped through.
Did we?
Yeah, and well, that's the thing. It's like myself, and yourself. You know, we managed to get out of the situation, but we've just kind of come to. You know, we're still completely shaken, and I know it's hard to convey in our voices sometimes because we are trying to roleplay as much as possible, but we are in extreme pain. We can't think straight. Yeah, I mean, it's hitting myself hard. I know it's hitting Triton hard as well. The fact that we're essentially down and out right now. My right arm, which is my dominant arm, that is screwed, and it might be screwed forever, because while it will heal, and the way that grievous wounds work is that after those sessions it will be healed, but it also kind of comes down to how it heals as well. And because we don't have, proper medical treatment, there is a high chance that it isn't going to heal properly for myself. And I feel like even if we did have medical treatment for Scott, there wouldn't be too much they could do, because with your ribs, it's, there isn't a hell of a lot you can do other than hope for the best and wait, essentially. So we're both in a pretty rough state right now. But yeah. I feel like one of the MVP roles for this session would go to Chloe for the handling of Garfield. And I find it so strange. I don't know if the rest of you kind of felt this way, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't put myself to killing that cat because it was just an innocent creature. Whereas I know I hit a man in the face with an axe more than once, and yeah, I felt like I could do that because this was a direct threat to us. But because it was just innocent, I found it so much more difficult to do.
Yeah, I don't think I could kill any kind of innocent animal or anything like that, or even like a human. I think I'd find it hard to, if someone got bitten, in the movies, how it's always kill me now, I'm going to turn anyway. I'd find that hard, because they're not that thing yet. They're still human at that moment. And yeah, I don't know how it's possible, and I don't know how. Well, then again, she was going to kill Matt the child as well, and he was pretty innocent. So
well, it's like
that's true.
Every part there, it's not that bad when he's killing those things, but as soon as the dog starts to turn, and Will Smith has a dog, and he's holding it, and then holding it more and more, and eventually that was the hardest part to watch in the movie was that.
Yeah, there's definitely an instance there, and obviously that's something that we're going to have to overcome ourselves. There is only so much food out there that we can just pick up off the shelves. Eventually, we're going to have to start hunting for ourselves, and we'll have to take that into account as well. I think that situation's a little different. I think it's a little different, but yeah. So props to Chloe for getting that one done, but our exit was hasty, to say the least. We left in a big hurry, and we left a number of things behind. It was mostly the food that was in the place that we hadn't packed away. We had all of our food, unfortunately, a lot of our resources were in the Wrangler when it crashed, and Chloe was only able to recover one bag, and that bag was just full of sweatpants and underwear, so it wasn't exactly the most helpful bag in the world, but hey, it's something at the very least. There still are a lot of things back there that we are going to want to attempt to get, but getting back there is going to be difficult, especially with the amount of action that was going on around there. And that crash as well, that crash made a lot of noise. So that noise is going to draw anything with ears in from around that area. I mean, where we're at right now is safe. At least it seems that way. Both Chloe, Nick, and Jake have managed to secure this home for us. And it's not a big place. It's not a grand place, but it's somewhere that we might be able to rest up and heal for a moment or two. We don't know if we're going to stay there long term. We don't know if it's just going to be a day, a night. But obviously, in the condition that myself and Scott are in, we need to try and deal with that first before we do anything else. Before we move any further on, because we're not in a great position. We're going to have to do something, though, because we haven't been able to fully search this place yet. We don't know what they're going to have in terms of food there, but we know that we don't have a lot. Like, going into this next chapter, we don't have a lot of food, so we are going to have to be going out. Even if it's myself and Scott staying here to rest and heal, the others might have to go out to scavenge to try and find food, supplies, and because they're going to be on demand, that is going to be harder for them as well, so it's interesting. Even when you get one or two people that are kind of out of commission, it really does put a strain on the rest of the group. So it'll be interesting to see exactly how that strain works its way through in this next chapter. And the next chapter, correct me if I'm wrong, our lovely GM, is Blood and Bone, correct?
Oh, it's been a while. Yes.
Blood and Bone, yes.
4, Blood and
Chapter 4, Blood and Bone. Yes, so take what you want from that naming, but yeah, there has already been a lot of blood and a lot of bones broken, so I'm hoping that we might start to be able to get some of those bones to heal, because who has first aid experience? Scott, Nick, Jake, do you have first aid experience?
I did a course almost 10 years ago, so it's going to be enough.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, right. So it's mostly Scott and Nick, and we've been kind of treating Nick as our de facto doctor. But I mean, what your prognosis on this probably isn't so good, right, Nick?
Oh man, it's not good at all.
Yeah.
It's from my relatively basic knowledge, I can tell you're not in a good way, either of you.
Yeah. No. Not a great way. So we are going to have to be trying to do whatever we can, essentially, to assist that healing. But yeah, it's not going to be a straightforward process for us. I think the main thing that we can kind of take away from where we are, at least where we're positioned, this home, it seems to be relatively elevated. So we might have I guess like more of a view, more of a sense of our surrounding from up here, so it'll give us a chance to maybe just sit for a while, try and heal, but we'll also have a sense of what's going on around us and maybe potentially be able to actually get some things. Now, I know on the way there we did actually see a chicken farm on the way to this property, so that is somewhere that we're probably going to be having to revisit, especially if we're looking at staying here for any kind of duration. Yes.
Yeah, you
yes.
did quickly. Oh, like I think by then, I'm not sure if you and Triton were awake, but you did quickly pass by a chicken farm that seemed mostly intact before you found that farmhand's little batch and garage.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll be wanting to try and make use of absolutely everything that's around us, but this is when something else kind of comes into play. If we're to stay here for any kind of duration, we're going to be essentially having to move further and further out as we are doing this, because if we're scavenging from house to house, eventually those houses are going to run out of resources, and this is where the kind of, I guess, the slow attrition comes in Zealand, is that you can survive for a while. You can try and put down your roots, you can try and lock your doors, but there is only so much around you that you can survive off before you need to start providing for yourself. And that's the thing. We don't have a lot of skills in that department. Jake has done a fair bit of farming in his life, so I think when it comes to that, we look towards Jake for that kind of knowledge. But yeah, we're going to hope that we can find things around us that we can use to survive, because a lot of people didn't stay in their homes. A lot of people tried to flee, and also a lot of people also turned. So the people that turned, they wouldn't have had any use for their items in their homes, and if no one else has been in there since, then there's a chance that we can still find those resources that we can actually use to survive. So that is the hope. And I can see that Hort is saying that YouTube is suggesting The Last of Us relating to the subject of the stream. I'm not surprised. I know sometimes down the bottom it says that we're playing DayZ. We're not playing DayZ, obviously. We're we're just here. I don't know where it gets its metadata from, but for some reason or another, sometimes it decides that you're playing a game. Whenever I do the town hall, it thinks that we're playing Civ 5. So I don't know how it decides these things, but it decides them somehow. So I don't know. It might be that I use Roman numerals, and they're like, oh, Roman numerals. It must be civilization. It's got to be. That's the only way we use them. I just had an earthquake here. Not really. It was just rumbling of the desk. Yes. Something that I want to do, something that I want to feature is some fantastic art that has popped up recently from Stately Raven, who has been the Legionnaire of the Month this month. I'm going to go ahead and chuck that on the screen now, and hopefully it all works just fine. And as we can see here, there are two awesome pieces of art of both myself and Charlotte. Once I received my message from her, and I can only assume her sending her message to me. And as we can see, the Toronto skyline doesn't look like it's doing too well. But it's absolutely fantastic art, and we always love seeing anything like this. So if anyone is creative in any way and wants to contribute to the Zealand Art Fund, the Zealand Art Gallery, the Gallery of Art of Doom and Destruction, feel free to post those on the Discord, and we're going to be featuring them in every Zealand live stream. So thanks again. And there was actually one more, which was, let's see if I can cycle these out. This guy with a fire axe, and, well, a very lovely fire truck in the background. A fire truck that we no longer own, unfortunately. It is gone with the wind. It's no longer with us, but hey, we've lost more. We've lost the Wrangler, and that's not going to be easy. Scott's car, he's had it for a while, and it's got a lot of our stuff in it. Yeah, it's tough.
But the important thing is we took the most important bag from that Jeep.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the most important thing is that we still have the sword.
Oh, yeah, that too, of course.
Good. Yes. Yeah, that's definitely the most important thing. It seems that everyone is quite fond of the art. I think it is. It's really, really cool. It did capture the emotion there. And Nick, yes, I agree, Nick. The fire truck is a loss to us. Betsy's gone. So, yeah. And I see that a number of people also believe that the cat was actually the mastermind behind all of this, that Garfield put this all together. But Garfield's dead now, so yeah. I mean, you were controlling Garfield, though, Skulk, so in a sense, Garfield was part of the master plan. So there we go.
And who says he's going to stay dead?
Well, that's true. We don't know that, and without revisiting that home, we won't know for sure. And I mean, Mary's still out there somewhere. We didn't finish Mary off. I mean, she finished her kids off. Well, actually, no. She finished one of them off. We finished the other one off. We don't have the best record with kids, unfortunately. So if you run into us in the apocalypse and you want to pass your kids off to us, maybe don't. It's not going to end well for them. It is not going to end well at all. Yeah. No, not so good. I can see that Video Girl has asked a question about doing live action video diaries for the end of the chapters. I might start doing something like that eventually, but what I'm hoping to do eventually, when depending on where we end up in game, I'd like to be able to visit some of those places with the rest of us. So we might be able to do that in the future. Skulk's looking very apprehensive about the idea of that, but no, I think depending on where we end up in Zealand, if it's still in New Zealand, we might be able to go to some places physically and do some recordings there. Not playing the game there because that's a little bit more difficult, but at least going to visit and getting a sense for a place. But in terms of trailers, I do have a trailer planned for Zealand. It's a launch trailer of sorts. I've been putting together a script for it, and I think it's going to be pretty damn badass. So stay tuned on updates for that. But we are getting a little bit into our stream here, so we're going to start taking questions from everyone in the live chat, and I'm also going to be going through some of the questions that you've asked over the coming days throughout the entire chapter. And we did have 5 episodes this chapter. It was a full-length one, and that does vary from time to time. Sometimes we'll be doing 4, sometimes we'll be doing 5. For the most part, the episode times stay around about the same, but if things are getting hectic, if things are getting wild, they can run over. So it does vary from time to time, but most of the time I'll try and state towards the start how many episodes there are, so you kind of get an idea of how much there is going to be there. And I can see that Stately Raven is in the chat as well, so be sure to give Stately Raven some props for that fantastic artwork. Okay, so let's see. We have a question from UndeathLol. A thing about the character sheets, can you add a sheet inventory system? My players forget what they have all the time. Well, maybe you might be able to tell us a little bit about that, Skulk, because we have some changes coming to our character sheet. Is that correct?
I think, and I'll have to go find the latest of the beta we released, but I think the beta 4.1, the one we did just release, does have an updated character sheet, which we did put a little box in where you can write all your gear.
That's true.
So
that's true.
Yeah, I hope, now that I go quickly look while I talk, if quickly find it, if it does, because I did make it. Where did I put it? I did make the new character sheet, and it should have all the way at the bottom of this thing. Yes. So on page 91 of the new beta 4.1, there's our new character sheet in there, which has at the bottom right a big box where you can write all your gear in.
Fantastic. Well, there we go. So that is there. And we do have some changes coming to the character sheet over time as well. And that's kind of the nature of this beta, is that we are going to be seeing changes over time to it as well as we're playing. So it's important that we get feedback from the rest of you. So those of you who are playing, please do give us that feedback. Best place for that is generally in the Zealand channel on the Discord. Just post back any kind of feedback that you have from your playing experiences so that we can try and take that on board. But we're also learning a lot from playing it ourselves, so there are going to be a number of changes that are coming up. Within the next few chapters we're going to start to see some developments, some new rules coming in, so those will be getting updated with the beta as we kind of go along. So there are a decent number of changes coming that way.
With I think chapter 4 is when we actually start using beta 4.1, so there will already be, between this one and next one, a fair few changes coming to the rules. It's not major changes, mostly just the way we use the skills, but I think from the next one is when we actually start using the latest beta.
Yes. So Video Girl 201 asks, are all creatures vulnerable to the infection? Can spiders turn? Perhaps you might be able to give us a little bit of information on the Skulk without giving too much away. I know that's not an easy task.
Yeah, but how far can I? How far? Yeah. So as I saw in the chat, you are right that thus far you've everyone's only seen mammals infected. I think so. I think it was only dogs. I think I mentioned dogs, cats, sheep, and bulls because you were out in the countryside. But there's a bit of a clue already. They did pass by a chicken farm with nothing amiss, so maybe they'll find in the next chapter if birds are susceptible to the plague.
Yes, and that's the thing, is like we will find these things out as we go. There is also a chance that they might have just not come in contact with anything that's infected yet. Where we are right at the moment, it's pretty isolated, but it's not ridiculously isolated. I mean, it's only like 10 minutes outside of town, so yeah, I mean that'll change. Callisto, that's actually a good idea. About us going to where we are role-playing currently and just say we're geocaching. That's always a good excuse. If you're ever snooping around somewhere you shouldn't be, just break out the old geocaching one, and they won't know what you're talking about, but it sounds like legit enough rather than trespassing. Trespassing never sounds good. Okay, let's see. So Starplays says, since Nick missed the Star Wars marathon while visiting someone in the hospital, will we find out whether he saw anything in there? Did he see infected being brought in? I wonder what your experience would have been like there, Nick. I know we didn't talk too much about that. I know we really haven't planned to really talk about that at all. Yeah, I mean, you weren't there for too long, though, from what I believe. You weren't there for too much of a duration, right? Because you ended up heading back home.
No, I was only there for a short time, visiting a sick relative. So my focus was on the relative, not really what was going on around me. Then, basically, we got pets at home, so I've got to go and look after the pets, and went home. So it wasn't particularly long. I probably would have seen people coming in, just not realised it.
True. It
was all been a bit chaotic. So.
Yeah, I do imagine there being a decent amount of chaos there still, even though things were starting to calm down at that point. But we have a question from Video Girl 201 again. Has losing the kids have had any effect on you guys since it was the first time that we've actually seen a kid die? That's true. That's true. Well, I mean, I guess me and Scott didn't see what happened to the other kid, but Nick and Chloe were there front and center. So Nick, you saw what happened, didn't you, with Mary's youngest or oldest? Was it? It was the oldest, right?
Basically, got a good look at that. Yeah, it wouldn't have sat well. Didn't sit well. But I had to help you guys.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what. Yeah, that's the kind of situation that I think myself and Scott find ourselves in. We don't know what happened to the kid that we're in the car with. We know just waking up that he wasn't there. So I think we can safely assume the worst. I think though, the way that I am in the game at the moment, I'm not processing as much of that stuff because obviously I've had some pretty big. We've all had pretty big things go on within the last few days, especially in regards to family members and relationships. We don't have these people with us. We don't know what condition they're in. A lot of us are probably assuming that the worst has happened, so we're processing that. So while seeing a tragedy like that would strike us, I think because we're still dealing with these greater, more personal issues, that those things are affecting us more. And so that's why we're kind of almost glazed over when it comes to some of these other things that we see happen. I know that when I saw what happened with Mary's kid, I know it was really like dark and bleak when I just said I fucking told you so. But that's almost how I felt at that stage, because I was like, you put yourself in this situation. If only you let us help you, there's a chance that your kids could still be breathing. And I stand by that. You know, I feel like if she actually had allowed us to restrain her, her child wouldn't have gone flying through that windscreen. So, yeah. Hort is right. I'm mentally fucked up right now. For sure. I mean, I'm still dealing with my 2 grievous wounds. For sure, my 2 grievous mental wounds. But, yeah. I feel like if she had agreed, if she had kind of had a little bit more sense of the true danger of what she could actually mean for her kids, then yeah, her kids would have been fine. But, yeah, the fact that she was the one that killed them as well is it's rough, but yeah, it's a tough lesson. So maybe if she ever gets reincarnated, or if she ever gets to reload her game, she might she might learn from that. Yes. Let's see. So CJ Truth has asked, were the Howlers a special type of infected? Well, they're not so much a special type, but they are more the first stage, which are the plagued. And so the plagued are very much like us. They are still alive. They still have a beating heart. Blood is still flowing through them. So they have the same speed, the same strength, the same ferocity that we can have. They're kind of unhindered by pain, though. They don't register to pain the same way that we do. They notice when they become injured, and they do notice a threat to a certain extent. Their brains are much more intact at this stage, and they have a lot more kind of mental function. So they have a lot more dexterity. They can climb. They can jump over things. They're dangerous as hell. And the howling is kind of it's not so much a side effect, but it's a natural guttural reaction to seeing their prey, seeing something that they want to get at, and that in turn draws others to them. They aren't necessarily pack hunters. They're not doing this by purpose, but it is just a side effect of them getting real excited and wanting to yell about what they've seen. Yeah. Okay, let's see. What do we got? Let's see, Megs Bunny. My character in the Zealand RP on the Discord held on to hope. What are your thoughts on the whole having hope that they are all okay? Oh, as in like the people that we know, the people that we love. I think we hope. I think we do hold on to hope to a certain extent. I think we need to, in a sense, have that as a shield. But I think eventually, be it a week, be it a month, be it a year, eventually I think that shield, that guard will start to slip, because the idea, after everything that we've been through, the idea that, you know, because a lot of our survival is down to luck as well. Some of it is skills, some of it is, you know, us doing well, but a lot of it is down to luck as well. And so going with that idea, the idea that other people could be as lucky, or the dice could roll in their favor, so to speak, I guess that starts to become less and less credible. So that guard will start to slip eventually, for sure. Yeah. CJ Truthful asks, how long will it take us to recover from our car crash wounds? It's going to take a while. I mean, the way that the grievous wounds work at the moment is that it's 10 sessions. We are playing around with that idea, so there might be some changes with that coming in the future. So stay tuned on that one. But in terms of the actual healing, it varies. It really does vary. With someone my age, for my elbow to heal, it could take anywhere between 4 weeks to a month to even more, because it wasn't just an easy break. It wasn't an arm break. It was my elbow, and it wasn't pretty. And I think, Nick, you're going to have a chance to have a little bit of a closer look in the next chapter. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that goes down. Yeah. So Kim, about the broken elbow. Dick and Scott have taken first aid classes, and indeed the first hour is the most important, but really a lot of the first aid relies upon other people being there to treat it, because that's the whole idea with first aid, is that you're essentially stabilizing someone for someone else to be able to come along and then do the treatment. And when Chloe was doing that research online, all she was finding was, just don't touch it, don't extend it, just leave it alone and wait for someone to arrive.
Yeah, because the big thing is, like with first aid, I actually, on that session we had, I had actually just done my first aid refresher like a month before. And pretty much the thing with a broken bone and stuff is you don't move it. The whole thing is you just need to calm the person down, keep it still, and then wait for the ambulance to arrive. That's pretty much the way to do it. And obviously, I think I might have said that in game. I can't remember, but
well, you were a bit buggered.
Yeah,
to be able to say much at that point.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But yeah, it's tough situation. We kind of just had to, get out of there. That was really the main thing.
Yeah, I mean, like we were all piled on top of each other, which probably wasn't the best case scenario, but given the circumstance that we're in, just getting us out of there was a miracle in itself. I think me waking up to finding ourselves in the other car and finding ourselves safe was a surprise in itself. I think Callisto's definitely right. Cabin fever can become a problem, especially with me and Scott being, if we're just in this place for a long period of time, we do need to stay entertained. Books are going to be a big thing, that's for sure. Also had a question from State the Raven. Do you think our group will last long enough to see a type 3 zombie? So that's a much further kind of stage. I'd like to think we would. But who knows? It might not be all of us. That's the thing. I think it's only going to be so long before we do lose one of us altogether. And that's not going to be an easy day, because obviously we've got through this all so far together. And I think when we finally do lose one of us, it ain't going to be easy, for sure. So I hope that we are all there at that stage later on. But we're gonna have to go through a lot of crap before we get there. There's a lot worse out there in this world. Let's see. We've got a question from Hort. Do we think, with the fact that the virus has been upgraded, do you think that society would have managed to create much more developed medicine? I'm sorry, Hort, I don't understand your question. I'm trying to decode it as much as I can, but I don't understand it. Maybe someone else. I don't know if you guys are able to decode that a little bit more than me, but I don't quite get it.
I think he's just asking if, since humanity created the virus, can they make
Yes.
the cure, the medicine?
Ah, right.
Which,
yes.
I mean, maybe. I mean, like, we haven't gone in the campaign the origins of all of that, since the guys don't know it and they weren't clearly involved in all of how it all started. So, I mean, all of those things will come out in the final book.
Yes. It's juicy. It's juicy as hell.
If we say yes or no now, it'll kind of spoil a whole lot of why. So, but everything in the book will be able to tell you if it's at all feasible for a cure to be created.
Yes, there we go. So Starplays has asked, since you're all playing yourselves, do you think your professional skills will help you survive long-term mechanical, electrical, agricultural, medical, etc.? I'd like to think they would. I think I'm almost the least helpful in this regard. I feel like beyond my like physical skills, I don't have a hell of a lot else. I have a great deal of knowledge when it comes to computing. Not going to be super helpful. Well, that's not so much a professional skill. I guess it's a professional skill in a sense. I can lie to people maybe, but beyond that, my skills in terms of creating content, creating stories, yeah, being a creative isn't so helpful. And I guess it's creative thinking, so perhaps that can help get us out of sticky situations. But in terms of actual professional skills, I don't have that many. I mean, Scott, where do you stand on that?
I don't know. I mean, I work in a warehouse as an inventory controller, so as far as supplies and maybe maintaining our stores and stuff like that, that might be a skill I could use. But externally, that's not really much of a skill. It's definitely good as an at home skill, I think. Just kind of making sure we've got enough supplies to last us, and make sure we've got a steady flow of things coming in and out, and know where things are at any one time.
Nice. Hey. And what about you, Sir Nick?
Well, software development's probably totally useless. The PT side of stuff, knowing anatomy and physiology is probably quite helpful. I've already used it a little bit.
Yeah, there we go. And nutrition as well. Like I feel like that's I feel like that is actually kind of invaluable to us. So
that doesn't help me make things taste good though.
Lets us know what we should be eating, what we should. Well, totally. I guess it's like anything. It's like eating anything would be good, for sure. Yeah. But no. So I would say that both yourself and Scott are more helpful than I would be at this stage. And what about yourself, Jake?
In terms of skills, none of us
nunchuck skills, bow staff skills.
None of us are on fishing too much. Last time I went hunting was with an air rifle when I was like 9, so no real help there. None of us really have any basic mechanical knowledge, so even the most basic diagnostics and troubleshooting of a vehicle is probably just going to be, it doesn't start, it's fucked. We're not going to be like, it's the battery or it's the starter motor or it's this. We don't know anything. I think Rycon, you're the one who spent most of the time out in the wilderness, but that's mainly just camping and tramping, not so much hunting. Yep. And you're not exactly staying out there for weeks or at a time. So we're all pretty, in terms of a survival team, we're pretty shit.
We don't have any doctors. We have no engineers. I mean, the thing is, like, I guess the good thing is, like, we are physically capable. I guess that's where we stand. Well, yeah, we'd like to think we're physically capable. We'll see, eh? We'll see if we are. But I think that's where we do kind of come into our own. Is that I feel like we're capable survivors. We have been so far. If we can continue, then yeah. We'll see. Darksaber has asked, will weapons break and need to be fixed in Zealand? They do have a chance. I think there is a chance for them to break there for sure, especially if you're not maintaining them yourselves. It's not something explicitly that you have to do, but I imagine it would help. It's the kind of thing that your GM can throw in to kind of screw you over. I mean, we do have GM intrusions. It's a thing that Skulk can do. He can kind of screw us over, make a gun misfire maybe for a sigil, especially if we haven't been taking care of it properly. Oh, Jake, you just turned into a into a small face of yourself. Hello. So yeah, I think there is a chance that could happen. It's not expressly a mechanic in the game, but it is definitely influenced by the GM, and they can bring that stuff down on top of you for sure. Let's see, Leland, you've said that creative skills make Doctor of Mental Injuries to a point. Yeah, I mean that's true, I guess, in extent. Yeah. Okay, let's see. I don't see any other questions right now. Something that I have been thinking about since the end of the session is that obviously we have our first firearm now, which is it's a big deal for us, but at the same time it does only have 1 bullet. So yeah, it's not.
Did ask a question about that. If that,
yes,
I think like earlier, like asking if the what's the odds of that bullet being used on one of you instead of on someone else?
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like we're all dealing with some kind of scratches and stuff like that right now. So who knows? Or maybe in a fit of rage, someone might pull it out. So who knows? Who knows? But it is there, and at the very least, I think it is it's a threat for sure. But we haven't had that many encounters with real life people, and I know there was a question. Hort actually asked a question saying, "Do you guys think there will be a possibility of you meeting up with a influential group of survivors?" Possibly. There could be people out there surviving like us. And I think running to other people is always interesting because I know everything that we've been through so far. I know all the hardships that we've had to go through so far to be able to survive. So being able to learn from someone else's experience can be huge because obviously they've had to survive in their own way. So finding out how they survived means that maybe we can, learn from that. And they in turn can learn from us. So I think that other people are definitely helpful. And I think they're crucial to learning. So that'll always be my my first question whenever we do meet someone is like, how are you here? How are you still alive? How are you breathing? Like, how have you got to this point here now? So, yeah. Kim, you're right. A gunshot is going to attract a lot of zombies. I think the thing is, like, you use the gun when you need to. When it's an emergency scenario that you find yourself in, and if lives are in danger, sometimes you just need to make that quick decision and use it. But it is definitely one of those emergency things. It's something that we don't rely on, but it's something that's there that we can fall back on if things get really bad. So, yeah. Yeah. But you're right. Yeah, Jake, you're right. Actually, in response to Hort, it is early days at this stage. We're only still a few days in. So, yeah. I know that a few people have been asking about time skips as well and how that would work. And essentially, it all comes down to safety and resources. As long as we have the resources to survive and we're relatively safe in where we are, there is going to be the possibility for us to do time skips. And I think that's pretty much the same in everyone's game whenever you're playing Zealand, is that if you can make yourself secure and if you can make sure that you have enough resources to survive, you'll generally end up time skipping through those parts and advancing time, because those are essentially the filler episodes, so to speak, when you're thinking of like a television show. You roleplay aspects of them, small parts of them, but because it's the day-to-day routine and stuff like that, and instead of you just going through that again and again and again, there is time skips there that allow for that until you start to, run out of resources or until your safety changes. It's essentially an equation. Like whichever changes, then you'll drop out of the time skip and start to deal with issues. Let's see, Video Girl, do you think you would be able to shoot a non-infected person? It depends. I mean, I think if that person is threatening, if that person's threatening my family, I got pretty vocal with Mary. I mean, I felt like she was threatening my family, so I kind of stood my ground with her, and things got pretty heated until Jake managed to step in and kind of diffuse the situation, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, I can't speak for us all here, but I feel like, if the situation was there, we might have to. And sometimes you don't know for sure. I mean, like, when I think back to Miranda, and I think back to that guy who Jonah had shot, and he seemed to be in some kind of pain, potentially. And I kind of made the split decision to just go straight for him, to ask him a question in the face. I did that without thinking, because I couldn't, hesitate to think, is he alive, is he isn't, or is he infected, The fact was that he'd been shot and that he was dying, and regardless, I felt like it was the right thing to do in that situation. But, yeah.
I did see one question.
Oh, yes?
Like with you guys, what are your long-term plan? Would you want to keep the group small or create a larger permanent survivor group?
What do you guys think? What do y'all think?
It's all based on what we have. If we have enough resources and the ability to keep people secure, and there's not too many dead around us, we could, increase our group size, as long as we keep our group cohesion. The more people we get, the more people, their ideas are there and what they want to do, and that can create other issues. But obviously, as long as we can shelter everyone and have enough water and food for everyone. Those are the three main things that stop us from expanding our group.
There you go. Yeah, true. What about yourself, Nick?
Yep, and it entirely depends on situation and people, whoever the people are. You don't want to try and survive with dicks, you know.
So why am I with you guys?
Oh well,
Huh?
ask yourself that question.
Oh.
At night, mate.
Oh, returned. Nice. Well done. Well done. What about yourself, Scott? What are your thoughts on the group and expansion?
The more the merrier, in my opinion. But just as what Jake said, we just have to all kind of get along and mesh well together. But the thing is, though, the larger we get, the more the way we work will change, because at the moment, the way we kind of work is quite easy to do since we're so small. But as soon as we start getting more and more people, it's going to get less and less realistic to do the whole democracy thing. Yeah.
Was there ever a democracy thing?
Well, we like to think so, but
I think most of the time we tend to try and make a decision as a group. Sometimes in the heat of the moment, decisions will be made for sure. But for the most part, we try as best as we can to have that. But yeah. But hey, we made it through another chapter. I think that is that's something. Myself and Scott only barely just making it through this chapter. Video Girl, the only person that isn't hurt yet, I think, is Jake. Nick's still dealing with some bumps and bangs, I believe, but I think Jake's the only one that's kind of through unscathed right now. I think Chloe's doing okay now. I think she was dealing with her juicy knees a little bit still during this chapter, but yeah. Jake's doing fine. He's doing super. Yeah. The juicy knees weren't so nice at all. Yeah. Blood and bone. Yeah.
So, a question from Callisto. As the infected spread and the fires burn out, it might be safer to go into the cities where the infected have already been. Callisto, remember that if you think that and the guys think that, there's probably other survivors who also think that, which means there's now more people in the cities and then thus drawing more zombies back into the cities.
It's very true. I think it's definitely that, right? That if you have thought of that idea, someone else has probably thought of that idea. And that's why my whole, going to Great Barrier Island, I didn't talk too much about it on camera, but I did have a plan for a little bit of trying to take the boat that was in the garage there and taking it out to Great Barrier Island, which is an island that's not too far off the coast of where we are now. But just the very idea of me thinking of that means that there are other people who undoubtedly have had that same idea and have probably done it. So, Great Barrier is a decently large island, but they've already got a population on there. And if more people are coming, those resources are going to get even more scarce. And when there's, resources are scarce, people get shitty. So it might not even be a good place to be. At the end of the day, that boat wasn't big enough to take us all across. So there we go. Stately Raven has said, is there anyone in the group who is a fisherman? I don't know what the fishing situation is in New Zealand, but the ocean is right there. Fishing is pretty good in New Zealand for the most part. If you go out even just rock fishing with a surfcaster, you're going to get something to some degree. So fishing's pretty good in New Zealand. It's definitely an option for us going forward for sure. We got some good kai. That's true. Skull does fish quite often. But yeah, we can't use your skills, unfortunately.
I think I am the only one out of the entire group who does fish.
I only fish when I go on holiday, and that's it. And that's usually for largemouth bass, which is different. And that's on boats.
Yeah, I only fish when I'm asked to either come fishing or go out for work trips and stuff like that.
Yeah, but you guys boat fish, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I surf cast.
Oh. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, I haven't done that for years. But yeah, it would be good if we can find ourselves some rods. I mean, yeah, like it doesn't matter where you are in New Zealand. The ocean is always there. Seafood is a big part of our country, so we are going to be having to take advantage of that for sure.
We could katana fish. I've seen YouTube video. It's possible.
Like what? Swimming around and just slicing fish with katana?
No, like just stabbing it with a katana. Yeah.
Okay.
Elite skills.
I'll stick to my rod. My rod, but we'll let you go around the rock pools.
Yeah, that'll be a skill that starts at 0.
Yeah. No, maybe you can take that as a specialty. Yeah, katana fishing. We can use that as a specialty.
Yeah.
I reckon.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll make that happen. Yeah, for sure. Just having a look through here. Yeah, so Hort, you're totally right. We aren't bulletproof. So Hort's just saying that he doesn't like the general idea in your kind of generic zombie apocalypse where there is a lot of there is no bulletproof plan. Everything can fall apart. For sure, and it will, like time and time again for us. We'll come up with what seems like a fantastic idea, and it will just it'll just fall apart for us. But Hort's also asked, if we had to pick a country within the Earth, what country do you think would be the most apocalypse-proof and most likely for surviving? I'll go through the rest of you first before I give my answers. So, Scott, what do you think?
I would have no idea. Geography is not my strong suit.
Good answer. What about you, Nick? Where in the world do you think would be the safest?
That's a tough question. I mean, New Zealand, as far as it goes, is actually quite a good country to survive in. We've got a lot of land that's quite farmable and not a high population, so that's pretty good. Anywhere where there's low population and good land is actually quite a good place to survive.
All right. And what about yourself, Jake?
New Zealand's pretty good. We have lots of little, especially within Auckland by itself, there are plenty of, even in the big city, there's still some decent enough land if you want to stay that way. But when we have decently, if you went to like Mount Taranaki, there's sort of only one way really up there, and you could easily close it off. And then there's plenty of bush there, and it does snow during the winter there, so you could if the cold really affects them, any places like that. So down south would be pretty good. But also, our New Zealand itself is an extremely hilly country, so anywhere you go just makes it a little bit easier to defend.
That is true. Actually, no, I'll ask you first as well, Skulk. What would you say? What would your choice be?
Switzerland. Lots of mountains. There's castles, low population. I mean, it's got everything you need to farm and defend yourself with.
Okay, Switzerland. All right. I pretty much would have to go along with everyone else. Like, the way that I was thinking about it was that something like Svalbard or, somewhere like very, very far north would be great. But at the end of the day, I think you start to run into issues with resources more than anything. And New Zealand's a pretty plentiful country when it comes to, wildlife and everything else. So I still feel like New Zealand would be one of the best bets. Even, and this is I guess a psychic thing to say as a New Zealander, is that in some of our our reserves, like our national parks, there is a huge amount of bird life and some really fat bird life. So we can survive quite well off the land, especially in those places. Also, we were talking about fishing before. We have marine reserves, and those marine reserves are literally just it is just like overflowing with fish. So I think when the apocalypse hits, you're not going to so much care immediately about ecological preservation. You see a lot of fish, you're going to take those fish, and I think places like those marine reserves, like places like Goat Islands and stuff like that, where when you go swimming, you can't not hit a fish with your hand. Those kinds of places, I think, are just absolutely invaluable. And because of the knowledge that we have of the area, because we have the knowledge of these things, I think that I would still stick with New Zealand for that reason. So, yeah, there we go. There was a question, I think, that Nick brought up before from Dark Savior. What would the group do if we came across a pregnant survivor? What do you think? Nick, seeing as you saw that question, how about you answer that one for us?
Oh man, I have no idea. It depends what stage of pregnancy, obviously, because early you probably wouldn't be able to tell. Later, it becomes medically really quite hard to deal with. and then you got a newborn, which is noisy. I don't know, man. It's really hard. I actually don't know how I'd react to that.
It's a tough thing, right? Because it's like
Skulk or Isaac ideas.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like I think I would just struggle to turn someone away. It's like, yeah, there's going to be a lot of hardships, but I think I would just really struggle to just turn that person away. I don't think I'm cold enough yet in game to feel okay with doing that, or even not feel okay with doing it, but even just be able to do it.
I'm probably in the same boat there. You know, I'd want to take them on just because it's a human life, but at the same time, you know, I'd have internal like friggin' battles with myself with the bad shit that could happen from it.
What if they were pregnant and bitten?
Well, I think that's a pretty that makes things easier, so to speak, to a degree. Well, actually, it depends how far along in their term they are, because I mean, if there's a chance you could save that child, then I feel like that's it's worth an attempt. But yeah, it's dangerous. It's real dangerous. Yeah. Seeing as we're getting towards the end of the stream here, I think it's probably about time that I go and revisit the dead pool. Now, none of us are dead yet, but we've come close. We came very close in this episode. So I'm going to have a look at the dead pool now and see how close you all were to those of us that actually got horrifically injured in this episode. So looking over at the dead pool in position 5 with the least amount of votes at only 4 votes is Jake. So congratulations, Jake. You're at the very, very bottom of the dead pool. Next up, it is followed by Nick at 5 votes. Only 5 votes, so you guys were both right down towards the bottom, so you're pretty safe. And in position number 3 is Triton. Congratulations with 10 votes. And then Chloe in second with 25, and that leads me in first place with 33 votes. So everyone out there thinks that I'm going to be the first to die, and I don't beg to differ. I agree. I came very, very close to death in this episode. Both myself and Scott did. So if you want to be the winner of that Deadpool, I do recommend whenever you see the new chapter pop up, so next week Wednesday, do be sure to check that one out. You know, it's going to be in the description, that Deadpool. We're going to be refreshing it each time we go into a new chapter. So, yeah, if you feel like changing your votes, feel free to do so. But, okay, I kind of agree with that. It'll be interesting to see if it changes at all throughout the next chapter. But, yeah, I feel like that was a pretty damn good one. What was that question from Video Girl? I've seen that someone was saying that was a good question. Oh, let's see. If you were pregnant and bitten, would your kid be infective? It depends. It depends. We can't give too much of that away. Like we said, we want to, while we're doing this campaign, we're trying to keep as much information, you know, a surprise as possible. All that information is in the book. But, yeah, it all depends on when the bite happened and how far along the child is. But we can't say too much more than that. But, yeah. Let's see. Yulia has asked if you die, would you let them cut your beard off to use it for warmth? I feel like that's still sacrilege. You wouldn't take a man's beard off after he's dead. No, siree. Well, we're getting towards the end, so if no one has any other questions, we are going to start wrapping things up. I'm going to go by everyone and just see what are your thoughts going into this next chapter. So Scott, we'll start off with you. How do you find, well, I mean, obviously you've only just become conscious again, but how do you find yourself going into this next chapter?
Well, I don't really feel like I'm going to be able to do much at all. I'm just hoping that I can be useful in some regard, you know, and yeah, I really, in character, I'm feeling like absolutely useless right now. I almost like, you know, I should have been left in the car. That's how useless I kind of feel at the moment in the game. So just trying to get rest and try to be useful where I can, and yeah, it's going to be a long road to recovery. So see how things go.
Certainly is. It certainly is. All right, Nick, what about yourself?
Oh man, I'm worried about you guys. I don't know how we're going to deal with that. I've got a little bit of knowledge about the sort of anatomy and physiology, but I'm not a doctor. We don't have much resources to fix you guys up. The car crash isn't good. So that's my thoughts going into the next is how do we keep you guys alive or happy or comfortable or useful or whatever.
True. It's not going to be easy.
No, man. Even if I had resources, it's still going to be hard.
There we go. All right, well, if that's you, what about yourself, Jake?
Well, it's go shelter, water, food. So we've got shelter. You know, it's not exactly a big place, but we're quite off the road, so it's it's a little bit hidden, which is nice. We have sweet ethical food on us, and again, same with water. We have no idea what the water situation was like at this place. So it's just worrying about being able to keep ourselves fed and hydrated, which obviously involves us going out and looking for stuff, which is an issue when half the group is sort of is bedridden. Means either 3 of us go away and leave you guys by yourself completely undefended, or only 2 of us go away, which then makes it more difficult out there, but keep someone there who might not be able to do anything anyway, because if people do arrive or the dead arrive, unless it's a small number of it and only one person can actually deal with it, then if there's more than one and one person can't deal with it, it's kind of pointless to leave one person behind anyway. So this is one of those catch-22 situations, which I think every situation we're in this game is going to be that. There's going to be some good ideas and some bad ideas, and nothing's going to be 100% the best.
I agree. Yeah. I think it's essentially where I find myself as well as going into this, is that it's not going to be easy, this chapter, for us at all. It is going to be a struggle. We are recovering, and we're going to make ourselves as useful as we can. We're going to try and do as much as we can to, make use of the time that we're given. But at the same time, we are going to be focusing on trying to heal. But we aren't going to be able to do that in a day. It's going to take a lot longer than that to kind of get back to square one. And who knows if we'll ever be able to get back to that square. We don't know for sure. But we will find out in the next chapter regardless. Now, something that I didn't talk about in this stream that I've been meaning to talk about for a while is that there is another Zealand campaign going on online at the moment. It is a good friend of mine, HotDog800. He streams live on Twitch, and it is also viewable on YouTube as well. So if you haven't had a chance to see that yet, just type in HotDog800 into your search bar for YouTube and you'll be able to find it there. He is doing that weekly, I believe, or at least bi-weekly. I believe it has been weekly, but so check it out if you want to get a different perspective on Zealand from another group that are playing through. And if you are playing through yourselves, and if you're recording it, just share that with us on the Discord, share that with us on Facebook and Twitter. And we'll be sure to pump that out there as well, because we are wanting to watch some more sessions and just get an idea of how everyone is when they're playing it, because we certainly learn a lot from playing through it ourselves, what works, what doesn't work, what's fun, what isn't, because at the end of the day, we do want to keep it fun. It needs to be punishing, because it's not it's not a walk in the park, it's the apocalypse, so it needs to be punishing, but at the same time, it still needs to be fun. And I think we're getting towards getting that balance there. So we're going to be wrapping things up. So everybody, wave goodbye. It's been good seeing you all. Thank you all for coming along. Don't forget that tomorrow is the town hall, so we're going to be doing another live stream. It's a weekend of live streams at the moment, but that's going to wrap us up for this one. I have been Rycon. This has been the team. You have all been awesome. And until next time, stay tuned. Pow pow.